What's up, fools? Colton here, doing a little tutorial. I'm gonna teach you how to set up a Floyd Rose, hopefully. A lot of trial and error, and I'm not quite perfect at it. But I'll show you how I do it, and try to make it somewhat entertaining. So let's jump right in. So what we got here is a BC Rich Gunslinger Retro. Got a Seymour Duncan, got a Floyd Rose. It's a Floyd Rose special, so it's not an original Floyd. I got bored at work and went to town with some Sharpies on this thing, and the clear coat reacted with the Sharpies. It used to look a whole lot cooler, but oh well, it's still pretty cool. These are Chinese-made guitars, maple neck, maple fretboard. Somebody put a Seymour Duncan in it before I got it. It's actually surprisingly stable and a good sounding guitar. The body, believe it or not, when I took it apart, the body is mahogany. So this is an earlier BC Rich Gunslinger Retro, and yeah, the early ones actually had mahogany bodies. Pretty cool. These are slowly climbing up in price. You used to get one for like $300. Now they're in the $400, $500 range. So get them while you can. They're very cool. I have two of these, a green one as well. So all I'm doing here is running the strings backwards through the tuners, down the neck. And we're locking them in between the block and the bridge right there. You want to get it pretty tight, but you don't want to over tighten it and break something. Got a piece of rubber right here on the handle of my tool, keeping the bridge up so I can access this and get to it easier. And once I get all the strings on, we'll start trying to get this thing in tune. So I got all the strings locked in there. All I'm gonna do is take that rubber piece out right there, and you can see the bridge is actually sitting pretty level, but there's no way it's even close to in tune. So we're gonna jump in this and do this together. This is the part that sucks about a Floyd Rose. All right, so the goal here is to balance the string tension with the spring tension in the back. And you want to balance it so the bridge sits level with the body. Kind of challenging. So the best way I found to do it is tune up the strings to where they're in tune relative to each other. It don't have to be exact tuning. Like, I'm gonna set this up a half step down. So I'm gonna tune it as close as I can to half step down, and then I'm gonna make adjustments using the springs in the back. And it takes a little practice to get it right, but I'm gonna go ahead and tune it off camera and then show you where we're at. I tuned it and all the strings went out of tune again. With the Floyd Rose, it's gonna take many times tuning, stretching those strings, getting them nice and stretched out. And you just gotta keep tuning. Start in the middle on the D string, then the G string, then the A string, B string, E string, E string. You start in the middle and work your way out, and it tends to balance out a little bit more. So just to show you what I'm talking about. All right, that's pitch. All right. So you'll have to do it, 2 or 3 times. Okay, everything went slightly flat on me, which is good, because if you look at the bridge, it's hard to see. It's not quite level. It's kind of tilted back at an angle a little. Hard to see on camera. But the strings went flat. So to level out that bridge, if I tighten up the strings, it's going to pull it forward a little bit, and hopefully it should level it out. If it doesn't, If it doesn't level it out and it's in tune, that's when you got to go in the back and either loosen or tighten the springs. Then you'll have to retune it. So basically, you want to get it as close to the tuning as you can get it. And then you want to adjust the springs to kind of finalize it and get it to where you want. So I think this one's actually going to work out this time. But if, for instance, if it were in tune and the bridge is still sucked back, what I want to do is I want to loosen the springs a little bit. Loosen it, and the strings will pull the bridge forward, but it's going to go out of tune again. So you got to keep going back and forth and tuning, and you kind of use the screws in the back to tune it too. It's very, very frustrating.
And a lot of experimentation. Okay, let's still a little flat.
The bridge is still sucked back a little. And it keeps going flat on me. So here's what I'm gonna do. The spring's in the back. I'm gonna take a Phillips head screwdriver and I'm just gonna loosen about 1/4 of a turn on each one. Then we're gonna try retuning it. I know this is extremely boring and tedious, but it's truly the only way to do it. Or you could get you a grown-up guitar and not mess with Floyd Roses. These things are for children. Okay, the bridge is almost perfectly level. Almost, but again, I went flat. So, got to tune up. So the bridge is pretty much level now. Still just a hair flat. This might be the last time. Okay, the bridge is level, kind of stretching the strings out a little bit. So what I'm going to do now, and if you're a little flat, tune a little sharp, and you won't have to tune as much. So that's pretty dang close right there. You want to adjust these fine tuners to where you have as much movement as possible either way, sharp or flat.
Go tune one more time.
Okay, you saw right there how much tuning it was. It's annoying as hell. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lock it down. And with these locking nuts, you don't want to tighten them too much or you'll snap the little screw off in the nut and you got to replace the nut. So that's no good. You want it snug, but you don't want to snap it off. So don't go being a hero and trying to Rambo it, whatever that means. So here we go. We're going to tighten it down pretty firm. Pretty firm. Okay, they're all tight now. Alright, I'm going to use the fine tuners to get it in tune perfectly. Now it's important to keep your hand off the bridge when you're tuning because it's floating, it'll go back and forth.
Looking pretty good.
So that's how you do it. I also recommend, you know, kind of dive bombing it and like really getting on it to stretch it. Get those strings stretched out good, and then unlocking it, retuning it, using fine tuners again. It's a long drawn out process, but once you get it in tune and the bridge is level, it's quite fun, I guess, if you're into whammy bar play. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try my best to answer them. I'm no expert at this by any means, but it took me about 25 minutes, maybe 20 minutes total. Also recommend change one string at a time. If it's already got strings on it and it's level and it's in the tuning you want, change one string at a time to help keep tension on that bridge, and you hopefully won't have to adjust the back screws. Like I said, you got to balance the tension between the strings and the back screws to get that bridge level. So if it's jacked up like this, you need to tighten those back screws to pull it down. If it's jacked down like this, you need to loosen them up and let the strings pull it forward. It's kind of a balancing act. You got to go back and forth. A little bit of practice, a little bit of trial and error, and you'll kind of get a feel for it, and you'll get decently fast at it. So today's song recommendation, I highly recommend you go check out Testarossa Rock and Roll. It's on this channel. Me and the boys ain't reinventing the wheel. We're just putting air back in that tire. Rock and roll's a little deflated now. I know everybody thinks Greta Van Fleet's gonna save the world, but yeah, that's lame. Nobody needed another Led Zeppelin. Again, not reinventing the wheel, reinflating the tires, and yeah. So go check out Rock and Roll by Testarossa. Also, since it's Sunday, I want to do a little Bible verse I'd like to share with y'all. All the sodomy, all the cheating, infidelity, you know, pornography, sex on demand. Yeah, you need to get away from that stuff. It's not done any good for our culture, whether you believe in God or not. It's just a drag on society, and the results aren't good. And Proverbs chapter 2, verse 16 says, "Wisdom will pluck you from the trap of a seductive woman, from the enticing propositions of the adulteress." So, yeah, all that stuff looks great, and, well, it really doesn't. But some of you, it may look great, but it ain't done nobody good. So take a moment, think about things, and thanks for watching. Later, fools.